Hey guys, our Decline here, average picker. Okay, so we've got a challenge lock challenge that we are going to try to do. And let me just start off by saying this is just for the goofies, okay? That's it. This is not going to produce anything of any kind of desirable quality, I don't think. But so here's what we're going to try to do. On the subreddit for lock picking, they have a belt ranking system. And to advance through the belts, you've got to do, at one point you hit a thing where you've got to show that you can gut and reassemble a lock, and you also have to produce a challenge lock. Now, you can clear these by producing the challenge lock, because to do that, you have to pick, or you have to gut and reassemble a lock, right? So you kind of knock both of those out together, and then you only have to do it once, you never have to do it again if you don't want to. So yeah, in theory, but what I started wondering was, could you make a challenge lock to their specifications without gutting it? So that's what we're going to attempt to do. Now, I don't think this is going to produce anything of any kind of quality. It's not going to produce something of notable challenge. Yeah, like I said, this is just for stupids. That's all we're doing it for. But I think it can be done. I've got a few ideas. So what we have to do is 6 modifications to the lock. And we knock one of those modifications out real quickly just by putting our name on it. So as soon as we give it an identifying name and put our maker name on it, we're down to 5. We only need to do 5 mods. So all we got to do is some pin modifications and some modifications to the core. Now, core modifications only count as 1, no matter how many times you do them, if it's the same thing. So if you thread 5 chambers, that still only counts as 1 modification. If you do undercutting on 2 chambers, that only counts as 1 modification, right? And then you've got something about no less than 15% or something of pin material. And that might be the toughest. I'm not going to try to measure out 15%, but I've got some ideas on how to do it. So that's what we're going to do. This is the most ridiculous thing. I think I'm going to just end up with something absolutely hideous, but I think I can hit 5 modifications without taking this lock apart. We're sacrificing this one, and I'm having some second doubts on it now that I'm looking at it. But the reason we're doing this one is it's not a very good lock, and I don't have to cut a key for it. And hopefully when this is all done, the key is still going to work, because I think that's going to be what I plan to do. I'm a little bit worried that we're going to destroy the key in the process, but I don't see how I'm going to cut a key for the lock without disassembling it and without going through the tedious process of impressioning, right? So without further ado though, I'm going to put a horror movie on in the background and we're going to get started. Okay, so the first thing we're going to do is pretty simple. We're going to get in here and take some of this warding off, and we're going to get in here and widen some of this, right? I don't know how to count that. I'm just going to count anything I do to the front as 1 core modification. We just did our first pin modification. Ooh. Yep. So we've maybe successfully modified pin 1. I may have already messed it up. Let's keep going. All right, it's still working, but yeah. All right, didn't catch the spring as bad as I thought, and I think we've got a possible pin modification now. Something's definitely wrong though in there. Yeah, let's keep going. Hey, we're still working. The key is still going out. Oh, uh-oh. Oh, there we go. See, just a little hang up, just like any other challenge lock, right? It just hangs up a little bit. So I'm really wondering about taking the back off. Because if I could take the back off, I could maybe get something back in there, like a jewelry saw file, to saw away at the pins with. But I'm not sure if that counts as gutting, right? I don't think it does, but I'm going to play on the safe side. I don't want to be disqualified from my own challenge, right? I'm just going to call the challenge lock police. Yeah, so we're just going to leave the back on. This is going way too slow. I think if I put on one of these cheap off-centered Chinese drill bits, might go a little quicker. I think I'm actually drilling in between chambers.
Trying to pin by now.
Man, this is oh, the key actually goes in almost too easily. It's as if the pins are not dropping, and now it's failing to turn. Oh, there we go, there we go. It's still turning. It is legit, but yeah, man, this, oh. Let's keep making some mods. Modifying pins, modifying pins. I'm gonna confess, I'm not sure how many modifications we've made at this point. So we etch our name. We'll do that'll be one. What, the core front? That was 2. If that is actually modified, let's make sure that's modified. Not gonna lie, I'm getting real nervous about this lock. The pins seem to have every time I hit them, they seem to stop going into the chambers. I'm also not sure how much material I've actually taken off of them. So we better do some more. Let's put my name on before I forget to do that. Picker, and what should we call it? No gut. So that would seem to have done it, but maybe we should go a little bit further.
Kind of crazy how far this thing will get in there. Supposed to be there.
I think this counts as a core modification. Okay, I think we've done it. Maybe. I'm really nervous I haven't taken enough off of some of these pins. Because if I gut it and we discover we haven't, I'll count that as a fail. Should probably do a little more work on it. Oh, that might have been too much. Key still works. But yeah, so I'm using this little, I've been using a little engraver bit. And it does not take off a whole lot of material when you use it. Okay, so we still have a working key. Sticks a little bit going in and out. But yeah, I think we've done it. All right, so we do have a key. It works. It goes in, goes out, turns. It snags a little bit. By all rights, it is a real challenge lock. Maybe all we've got to do is get the back off. And we will see what we've got. I was kind of worried. It may not have been a lock anymore, but it does still lock and it does still open. So we're all good. Is that one? Okay, so the sad news is I did not modify the core as much as I'd hoped to, but I could have. I see a way now that I could have done some core modifications in there. So let this lesson be learned by my mistakes when you decide to make a challenge lock without actually taking the lock apart. I also, things that I thought might have done more damage inside did not. This is incredibly full of shavings though. So what do we have? Let's see, we've got a and just something broken on 5. 4 has remained very standard. These pins are very sticky. 3 has remained very standard. 2 came out very unscathed. And let's check out 1. Now 1 we do have, well, not as deep as I would like, but I'm going to call it a serration that sits very low across it on the bottom. All right, let's see what we have upstairs. So we've got a pin that doesn't want to come out of chamber 1. 2. 2. There we go. 2 is just a. I'm gonna. 2 is just a mess. Oh, there's our spring. Someone's saying, why didn't you pick this? Because I just didn't. Sadly, 3 came out a lot less scathed than I thought. You know, if I was to do this again, I would leave that bit in there a lot longer, I think is what I would do. 4, 4 is just stuck. 5. 5 is, it looks like we've got another mess on 5. Okay, let's see about getting these pins out. You can see our pin 1 has a number of modifications made to it. Unfortunately, one of these modifications is does not come out. There we go. Okay, so let's take a look at what we've got. So one of our core modifications was I cut a little bit of that warding off. So we've got, that counts as a modification, right? And that removes a little bit of the picking ledge. In fact, that's something I kind of like to do. I'm going to count anything I did up here as just face modification. So I'm going to count it as 1. I widened up our top here. Now that's going to inhibit some top of keyway tensioning, right? Tensioner is not going to fit in there quite as snugly. But what that also did was it allowed me to access pin 1. And you can see what we've made here is it's like sort of a broken molar design is what it is. This is like when you're eating popcorn and all of a sudden you bite into a piece that's too hard and like the cap falls off your tooth or something. That's kind of what this is. It's not quite what I would say is a normal broken molar design, but it's pretty close, right? Now, also going in through there allowed us to do a little bit of modification to the key pin. So you can see we've got just the tiniest bit of spool element on the key pin. Should you actually cram this pin all the way up to the shear line, that little bit is going to get caught. So you can see I tried to come in here and do some undercutting, but it didn't really work. Now what I should have done, you can see how I accessed portions of the lock without gutting it. What I probably should have done was with the core in there, I should have rotated it with the key and come in pretty hard. If I had really looked through that hole, I might have been able to see, and I could have grabbed those edges that way better. But as it is, you can see just how far I had this thing turned in a lot of cases. So this thing was all the way like that when I came in through the side, and I ended up just pushing into the side of the lock. Now I could have gone on maybe and inserted a pin and made that a secondary latching mechanism. But let's finish looking at the pins here. So pin 2, Pin 2 is quite nice. You can see this is basically what we call a raw tumbler, right? And again, it's got that asymmetrical kind of decay around it that is going to inhibit even picking, right? You never quite know what this pin is going to do. Now for 3, I tried to spool it. I thought we could maybe get a spool going, but you can see I just didn't get the pressure in there and ride it enough. But I think if I had to say feasible or not, I think that's very feasible. I think you could get in there, let this pin bounce itself around, and get that cut into some kind of molar spool perhaps. And that's almost what we're looking at back here on 4. You can see again, we've got this massive gouge, and that's going to really hang up on the shear line. And then we've got these little bits there. That's going to be able to catch as well. So overall, I think this would probably, I don't think this lock could be picked actually if you could get all the pins to actually go down into the chambers. I don't see how it's going to happen. So our number 5 key pin, again, I tried to come in, and you can see where I started almost to get it, and I started getting some modifications going on there. A little gouge there, and it was starting to ride around, but I just didn't really come in hard enough. Again, you can see just the very start of what was going to be a spool pin here. But what's really interesting is what we've done is we've done a partial topless, right? So that's your shear line up there, and this is going to enable this pin to not sit quite correctly on the shear line, right? Which means when you're picking, you're going to have to be really careful because you've got this guy up there on the top, right? So this is our number 5 driver, and you can see he's been heavily modified, right? So this is very much what we would look at as kind of a good example of a shattered tusk type of pin work. Let's see if that lines up wrong. It's not going to sit on the top of this guy correctly, and that's going to inhibit your ability to pick it. So yeah, now we still have a pin, or we still have a spring stuck in there somewhere. As you can see, I've only got 4 out. It's possible it fell off the table, but I really don't think so. But yeah, so there we go. And as you can see, our key, that's our bitting, and it still works. Our core, even though we didn't really get all the modifications in we wanted to, I think proof of concept wise, we showed that it could be done. And our pins, and I think we have hit the 6 modifications we need. Average picker, this is called no gut, so we've got the 1. All the face modifications we did, that's our 2. We may be able to count that as a 3 if we wanted to, but you can see we've got 4, 5, and 6 for sure. And we've got the starts of some other ones. I mean, that's pretty hardcore there. So we could even say maybe that's a 7. And then some of these, I'm not sure how they would get counted, but we have modified pretty much every pin except some of our key pins. And even though these didn't get it as much as would have been nice, I think the concept's there that it could be done. So there we go. We have made a challenge lock that conforms to the Reddit standards, I believe. I'll post it on the Discord. We'll get it checked out. And we've done it without gutting a lock. All right, you guys have a good night.